Okay, good morning everyone. So, like yesterday, I mentioned about this different taxonomic rank within the taxonomic hierarchy. So, there are these different categories. So, we'll see one by one what does it exactly mean. There is no much description apart from one being the subgroup and the other being the higher group. We will have to look at it from the examples perspective. Then we will have more clarity of these different ranks. So first one, kingdom. I hope again you all of you remember this statement. Dear King Philip came over for good soup. That will give you the sequence of this hierarchy. So in case of kingdom, which is the highest level of classification, and it's divided into various subgroups. So there are majorly 5 kingdoms that we know of. That is Animalia, Fungi, or fungi, Protista, and Monera. Right? These were the 5 kingdoms. Now, when you classify one particular kingdom, what you get is the phylum. So within one kingdom, like let's say for example, kingdom Animalia, it has 35 different subgroups, or what is called as 35 different phyla. Again, we did not know all 35, even if few of them that we know of, like for example, Porifera. Again, I'm sure all of you would be aware of this category. Porifera. This is like I'm sure you have seen the sporals, right? Uh, Porifera, Porifera. So these are the category which is mostly like you find it in the deep water bodies. So these are the Porifera categories. Then chordata, this means the animals which have notochord. Again, chordata or most of these vertebrate species. So no, let me write chordata. Can you please not talk behind so that there is no noise for these people? So all those animals which have vertebral column, ultimately they have what we call as notochord. So notochord is one of the structure within our body. I don't know if yeah. So usually the vertebral column itself can be called as notochord, but that's not exactly the same meaning. Yeah, it's not replaceable with each other. Vertebral column is not same as notochord, but they are derived from one particular structure and then they form backbone-like structure within an organism. So all those organisms which have a particular backbone-like system, they are called as chordata. And then orthopoda, these are all your insect category. So that is, these are the 3 major phylum that we commonly know of. We may not know these names, means rather you may not know these names, but now you will have to get used to these names as well. Like when we talk of a particular phylum Porifera, that means this is talking about the those coral type of sea bodies or sea living organisms which forms into the which falls into the phylum of Porifera. Chordata, like I mentioned, all the vertebral column containing organism. So that way these are different phylums. Then class, it is the another subclassified version of the phylum. So in the taxonomic hierarchy, and earlier it was not included. So if you see the first line, class was the most general rank in the taxonomic hierarchy until phyla were not introduced. So the phylum came into picture much later. Earlier it was like different classes of the organism they were introduced. So that is that way kingdom Animalia, it includes 108 classes. So these 108, they were grouped into 35 and that ultimately became one kingdom of the kingdom Animalia. So the classes includes Mammalia, again all the mammal species which give birth to babies and which have mammary glands, that is Mammalia. Reptilia, all the reptiles category, these are what we say one class within the animal kingdom. So now if you look at these two, Mammalia as well as Reptilia, both of these, they have notochord. That's when they fall into the phylum Chordata and they fall into the ultimate kingdom of Animalia. So that is like hierarchy of this organism. Then aves. Does anyone know what aves are? You know it very well, but have you heard of this word before?
Uh, it's the Latin term for birds, I think so.
Correct. So all the birds, they fall into the class of aves, and that is what we call at one class, which is ultimately one of the class from the kingdom Animalia. So that way you will have several such groups, and like I mentioned earlier, there are 108 total classes. If you want to look for those 108, you can Google it out. You can easily find the list. But that is not important here. We need to know main categories. For example, we need to know about the mammal category or mammal class, then reptilia, all the reptiles class, and of course the bird class. And there are 2-3 more that we will be studying while we look at the classification actually. Yeah, and one again important point, these classes which are used currently, they are different than those which are proposed by the Linnaeus, because obviously when this Carl Linnaeus was studying different classes, he did not study all the categories. He studied only those which were found by him. So that is when some of the classes were left out, and that is why currently what we use, they are much more rigorous in terms of information. So these are the 3 categories from the top hierarchy. Anyone has any questions so far before we move on to the next taxonomic rank? Okay, so I assume there are no questions. Okay, so the next one in the hierarchy is the order, which is again a sub-classification of the class category or class taxonomic rank. And this consists of more than one or more similar families, because family is the even further subclass of order. So that way when 2 or 3 more families come together, it forms one order. 2 or 3 more orders, when it comes together, it forms a class. So that is the only description you can find in any of the textbooks or even reference books. So there are total 26 orders in the class Mammalia. Like within the mammal category, there are 26 subclasses. So one of them being primates, where the human form is considered as. We will look at the meaning of these primates. Or carnivora, these are all, let's say, your cat family, right? What we call it, cat family, Canidae. Canidae is the family actually, but the all the lions, tiger, all these they are in the carnivora family because they are carnivorous animals. So that way, these are the 2 orders, and the families again, which is the sub classification of the order, and the families include carnivora. Especially the carnivora order will include Canidae, Felidae, and Ursidae.
Felidae, like cat family.
Yeah, the
feline.
Correct. And Canidae is all the canine containing,
Dogs.
dogs, that family.
And Ursidae is bear.
Correct. Ursidae is the bear family. So you can see all these similar looking organisms, they have been grouped together. Then carnivora and primates, these were all mammals. Correct. These were all mammals because they give birth to the newborn babies. So that way, the classification works. I will show you. So Felidae is all those, no, here only. Yeah, but Felidae. Actually. So you can see these are all the Felidae family. Yeah, and then
like feline, basically.
Sorry.
Like we say feline, right?
Yeah.
So that's feline.
That's the commonly used word.
Yeah. So like all the cat.
It's the cat thing, right? The cat's family.
Yes, correct.
Feline.
And this one, Canidae, is all these canine containing, like especially this one. Yeah. These are the this is your Canidae family. So that way, all the similar organisms, they are grouped. And let me show you Ursidae as well. So you can see all these are including your polar bear and all of the species, different species, they are included in this bear or Ursidae category. Sorry, what Thylophyta? We will talk about it. Yeah. So now after this family, what we get is the genus and species. Now, genus and species, these are the most commonly used terminologies within the taxonomic hierarchy. And the reason being because they gives us the scientific name of a particular animal or particular plant, right? Or any organism for that matter. So a group of similar species, they will form a genus, and obviously there can be either monotypic genus or they can be polytypic. So when some genera, they have only one species because they don't have different species involved in it, and that is why they are called as monotypic, right? While on the other hand, one particular genera might have several species within it. Simplest example is Homo sapiens, right? Or sorry, Homo genus, and which has again different categories like Homo erectus, Homo sapiens, Homo neanderthalensis, and so on. So that way, it is a polytypic genera or polytypic genus, right? Both monotypic, we will talk about it when we look at the classification, okay? Because now you may not remember all of this information as of now, so you just need to remember what are these different taxonomic ranks here. So one of the things that you must remember is genera and genus. These are same terminologies. When we use it, sometimes we use it in terms of genera or we use it as a genus, but both of them, they mean the same thing. So for example, lion and tiger, they are placed under the genus of Panthera. So it is Panthera, I guess, Leo, that is lion, and Panthera tigris or something. I don't remember exactly all the names, but that is the tiger. Yes, Anavi?
So could you give an example of monotypic genus?
That's what I said. We will talk about it when we look at the actual classification of the organisms. Yeah. So we will
Yes, sir.
have many examples of each category, right? So there we will talk about this again and again. Then the next taxonomic rank is species, which is the last and the lowermost hierarchical level. And there, like we discussed this, there are total of 8.7 million species on the earth as of now. And it refers that these organisms, which are similar in shape, form, and reproductive features, they will be classified as one particular species. And this last line, the species can be further subdivided into subspecies. Not all the species, they have been subdivided into subspecies. Like for example, again the example of Homo sapiens, right? It was earlier called as Homo sapiens sapien, right? Sapien word was used twice because the first sapien spoke of the species and all of the earlier animals, like for example, Homo sapien neanderthalensis, Homo sapien erectus, that is how it was called as, or Homo sapien sapien, that means human. But nowadays, that subspecies has been removed and it is only like a genus and species and no subspecies. There is another terminology which we talk of variety within the species. Like even again in case of human, we know there is African race, there is Caucasian race, there is what we call as Mongolian race. So there are different, and of course like Indian race, right? So these are all different races as in a variety within the species, and that was also considered. But nowadays all of these extra additional information below species is not always used. Rather, we stick to the genus and species kind of information. Yes, Anavi?
So why was the sapiens thing removed from all the other Homo sapiens, like other humans?
Because they all had drastically different characteristics, like starting from the skull size to the body shape to the fur on the body, also the brain capacity and so on. So there were several parameters on which these species were drastically different. Also the eating habits or habitat where we stay, all of these things were quite different than what we currently are. So we are like a domestic animal and those were the wild animals, if I have to very weirdly put it forward, right? So that's when these two became different species, and that's why we don't use subspecies anymore. We have been classified, we have classified these organisms into totally different species altogether.
Okay, sir.
Okay, again, any question, anyone? I guess let me show you the example of monotypic, because monotypic, what am I typing? Monotypic genus, fine. Right, for example, let me, so all these, like, see, the reason why I did not tell you is this, because these names are so difficult to remember for you people. Like common ones, I don't know which one will be the common ones. Maybe Ginkgo itself. Ginkgo biloba is one of the plant species. Again, let me show you Ginkgo biloba. Yeah. I'm not sure if you would have seen this particular tree, but this is Ginkgo biloba. This has quite a lot of medicinal use, right? Like I'm sure you would have seen this fruit somewhere in the wild trees around. We have quite a few in the Sahyadri campus. But see, the reason of not telling you the monotypic is this, because these names are too weird to remember as of now, right? If you can remember, it's well and good, but if you don't, it's okay as of now.
So what is Kingdonia?
Kingdonia, where is Kingdonia?
In the image.
This one, where is Kingdonia?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry,
No, it's here.
in this image only.
Yeah.
Where is it?
There.
Is there on near on map?
Sorry,
From bottom.
There is
I can't hear. So this is one of the genus itself. So again, like if you want to know what is it, it's Kingdonia. Kingdonia. We have to type so specifically. Wow, very good, very nice. But yeah, so these are the names of all the genus which are monotypic in general. Yeah, so that is what is the case here. But yeah, like I said, you don't have to remember all of this. We will talk of specific examples, and those only you need to remember. So you need not remember all those different names. Okay, Ishan, you have raised hand.
Yeah, so some genus don't have species, right?
No, genus will have species. Monotypic genus will be, they have only one species within them.
Oh yeah, so they have only one
Ginkgo
species.
will have only biloba species. There is no other Ginkgo category.
So while evolution, they might have some nearest species, right?
Yes, correct. So earlier these genus, they were not so
They
set.
should have something really similar.
Ishan, your voice is breaking.
So I don't understand. How can you have something which doesn't have many species? So it's like it's very different from other things.
Not necessarily. So like I said, let's assume, like, to understand this particular process, this Ginkgo biloba might have been a part of some other genus, right? And later on, when it is studied more and more, we find different details, and that is when we put it into different category altogether. It is not, it was already in different category and only one of these species was found in that. It is not like that. So like we go from higher category to the lower category. We will classify whether it's a plant or animal. Okay, if it is a plant, then we will classify it further, whether it's an angiosperm, gymnosperm, bryophyte, and so on, right? And then we go on sub-classifying it further to the level of genus and species, right? Now, once we come to this level, it might be found that this particular plant belongs to so and so category. But later on, when we study the physiology, when we study the chemical constituents, and so on, we might find it this plant is totally a different category, and that is when we put it into a separate genus and species. And that's why most of those monotypic genus, they are having only one species. So for that is the reason for that.
So if you have two different things, then for suppose one of the things evolved into some other thing, so there should be some guys in the middle, right?
Sorry, there should be some
species in the middle which have similarities of both.
So obviously that is what I said, that was considered as one group earlier. The moment you keep studying more and more information, you keep classifying the organisms into whether it belongs to the same category in which it was classified earlier, or it can be classified into separate category altogether. So need not be that after the classification into a separate category, it may not have something in between, right? Because we have classified it completely. I hope that makes sense to you.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other question? Anyone?
So like if there's like a monotypic genus, like why do they get their own category? Like is genus like really necessary for them?
Yeah, because genus gives the name to the particular plant or animal or organism.
So like if so is it like there's just in case like if furthermore those species are found, or also to name them?
No, I didn't get this.
Like are they given the genus just for the name and like to divide them from other plants?
Yeah, that is one purpose, and of course to identify a particular plant, right? So it's the same thing, like we also have our surname as our genus, and the specific name, like all the members within our family will have a common surname or at least common last name, if I can say so, right? And then from that we have specific names. So that's what is like something like genus and species. Okay, so I hope this part is clear to all of you. Now, I don't think so. I should show you this video here. Okay, let me show you this particular video. It talks about different kingdoms. So once we have a look at these kingdoms, then we will go and study the individual kingdom, starting with Kingdom Monera. So I hope this video is short. How much is it? Yeah, 3-4 minutes. So we'll all watch it. I hope you will be able to see and hear it as well. So please pay attention to this.
5 Kingdom Classification of Organisms. Objective: to learn the...
Okay, yeah, so this is going to talk a little slow at the start, but pay major attention when they talk of the different kingdoms and their characteristics.
5 Kingdom Classification of Living Organisms. In 1969, ecologist Robert Harding Whittaker divided all living organisms into 5 categories, commonly referred to as the 5 Kingdom Classification. Kingdom Monera consists of the most primitive life forms found on Earth. These organisms are usually microscopic and unicellular, meaning they are single-celled. They have no nucleus within their cytoplasm. Bacteria, Archaebacteria, and Cyanobacteria are all members of Kingdom Monera. Kingdom Protista is next. The organisms within this kingdom are also unicellular, but they have a nucleus. Cells of this type are referred to as eukaryotes. Most members of this kingdom can, like plants, undergo photosynthesis and produce their own food, and like animals, will have locomotory structures. Most Protista are aquatic and include diatoms, algae, euglena, and protozoans such as amoeba, paramecium, and plasmodium. Kingdom Mycota, also called kingdom fungi, includes fungi such as yeast, mushrooms, and molds. The body of fungus is made of long thread-like structures called hyphae. Its members can be free-living, parasitic, or symbiotic. The fourth most complex kingdom is Kingdom Metaphyta, also referred to as Kingdom Plantae, and includes multicellular plants with eukaryotic cells, means they have a nucleus. The cells of this kingdom will contain a cellulose cell wall and a green pigment called chlorophyll. Chlorophyll aids in photosynthesis, a process during which plants make their own food by utilizing sunlight. Kingdom Plantae comprises all plants, including herbs, shrubs, and trees. Finally, we reach the kingdom with the most complex organisms, Kingdom Metazoa or Kingdom Animalia. It includes animals which are multicellular organisms. The cells of these organisms will be eukaryotic, and although they do not have a cell wall, they do have a cell membrane. All members of this kingdom have tissues and organs. Animals are heterotrophic, meaning they depend on other living things for food. Kingdom Animalia includes animals without bones, such as the earthworm, insects such as the mosquito and cockroach, and animals with bones, such as fish, lizards, birds, cows, and humans. Summary. The five kingdom classification was proposed by Robert Harding Whittaker in 1969. According to the five kingdom classification, all organisms can be divided into the categories of Monera, Protista, Mycota, Metaphyta, or Metazoa.
Okay. One thing that you don't have to remember these names, keep it to the simple ones, because we don't really use this name that often these days. It just that it is part of the video, so you got to know them, but otherwise you can just ignore, and you can still call them Kingdom Plantae and Kingdom Animalia. Sorry, you had asked something? Or you said something? Hmm?
No, I was asking earlier,
What is? You are still so thylo. We had seen that thallus organization. Thallus is a structure within the fungi which talks of the stem portion and the leaf looking like portion. Leaf as in the spore containing portion. That is called as thallus organization or thallophyte. So whole of that category which contains thallus is called as thallophyte. No. So we have to look at the structure, then you will understand that. Okay, so now we will look at the first kingdom, which is Kingdom Monera. Now, again, I hope all of you will take notes, because later on it will be very, very difficult to remember which category or which kingdom has which characteristic. And like we are going sequentially, so logically also you should be able to recognize what these categories are. So we usually start with unicellular, prokaryotic, then we go to unicellular eukaryotic, then we go to the fungi category, which is still multicellular eukaryotic, and then from there we go to multicellular complex eukaryotic, and the human being or the all the animal category is even multicellular complex eukaryotic. And of course, you know the difference between plant cell and animal cell. So that is the distinction between those complexities. So that way, when we classify particular organism, we go from Monera to Protista to fungi, then Plantae and Animalia category. So the Kingdom Monera, these are unicellular, that means they are single cell, and they are prokaryotic, that means they don't have enclosed nuclear material, right? Carry on. I hope you all remember that prokaryotic and eukaryotic difference, so I won't be talking about that much here. So it mainly includes the bacteria, which you all know what bacteria are. Blue-green bacteria, these are one specific type of bacteria which are present and which were one of the most primitive bacteria. We will see those some of these examples, and some unicellular algae which are prokaryotic. Otherwise, most of the algae, they are eukaryotic, but there are some which are prokaryotic as well. So some of these unicellular algae. Main thing that you need to remember as an example of Monera is surely this bacteria. They don't have any organized nucleus in a single cell. The nuclear DNA is distributed in the cell without being enclosed in the nuclear membrane, and that's what we call them as a prokaryote. It's devoid of membrane bound organelles like what we have in the eukaryotes, like mitochondria or chloroplasts. They do not have it, right? And you know the probably the structure of bacteria while you are studying the prokaryotic cell. So that is what should be there. Now, whatever you see in the diagram, these are just the different examples of this Kingdom Monera. So for example, the first one, Streptococcus pneumoniae. Streptococcus is the name given to this bacteria because of its size and shape, which we will see here, right? And even in this diagram, which will talk of this different example. So usually the cocci or coccus, this is the bacteria which are spherical in shape. So that's why these different names you will see here. Then Staphylococcus aureus, then Clostridium tetani. This is the tetanus causing bacteria. I'm assuming all of you would know tetanus, which is kind of infection which happens when you get a wound due to the iron material, or even because of the contact of the soil with your injured area. That's when you get this tetanus injection. That injection is for killing of these bacteria, that is Clostridium tetani.
Sir,
Yes.
is the bacteria on the iron or the rust of the? Is the bacteria on the iron or the rust of the?
Rust.
Sir,
Yeah.
what does primitive mean?
Primitive means too earlier. Where is it? Is it written here? No, right?
No, in the video I noted down
Most primitive species means they were the earliest species. Like prime, we say first, no?
Yeah.
Prime number, first number, so whatever it is, right? So that way, primitive is referring to the earlier species or earliest ones. Okay, so I guess I don't have to tell. This Salmonella typhi is the typhoid causing organism. Vibrio cholerae is cholera causing organism. So that way, this Helicobacter pylori is the pyloric infection that we have, which is one of the kind of infection because of this bacterial species. So there are several such names that you will come across. We will only remember one specific example from this category. So that is Kingdom Monera. Now, bacteria, they may occur everywhere. Like you imagine a place, it will be found there, except the areas which are sterile. Sterile in the sense, like for example, the pharmaceutical factories or like even the pathology laboratories. These are the areas where you will find less number of bacteria, or the research area where the work happens about for cells or bacteria or virus. They will not have this bacteria in those spaces, apart from whatever is being cultured. But otherwise, Bacteria, they are present almost everywhere in all the spaces on the earth, and they are microscopic in nature. Probably the size is hardly somewhere around less than a micrometer or so, right? That is when you have to look through the microscope when you look at this bacteria. They possess a cell wall and are prokaryotic. Cell wall in the sense they have very specific cell wall which is made up of peptidoglycan or polysaccharides, lipopolysaccharides material, and they are heterotrophic, as well as some of them they are autotrophic. Heterotrophic because they are dependent on nutrition for others, and those which have what we say photosynthetic pigment which were evolved later from the primitive species, that's what they are autotrophic. Cell wall is made up of amino acids which are nothing but the proteins, and the polysaccharides which are nothing but the carbohydrates. So the heterotrophic bacteria can be parasitic, that means they are totally dependent on the nutrition on the other living species, or they can be saprophytic, that means they are dependent for nutrition on the dead or decaying organisms, right? Something which is dead or decaying, or now it is degrading over the time, that will have lot of bacteria and they will be called as saprophytic. So that is the different types of nutrition. And of course the autotrophic bacteria can be chemosynthetic or photosynthetic. Chemosynthetic means they will, using particular chemicals, they will get their energy. For example, ATP, right? We are not bacteria of course, but the example is we generate the energy using some chemical energy, that is like ATP. So something like that happens in the bacteria as well. So they will be called as chemosynthetic, and the ones which use solar energy or light energy, they will be called as photosynthetic autotrophic bacteria. So that is just the general information about the Kingdom Monera. Now the types of these bacteria which are present in the Kingdom Monera. So they are cocci or coccus, which is singular, and cocci is the plural, which is spherical in shape. Bacillus, these are rod shaped bacteria, or bacilli they are called as. So for example, Bacillus subtilis is one of the example. In cocci, you can have Staphylococci or Streptococci. Again, the Staphylo and Streptococci, the names, they are different because the arrangement will be different. Sorry? Okay. Okay, let me just finish this. I'll come back to it. So the names, they are different for these different cocci species is because the arrangement of the spherical shape will be different. Like simplest example I can give you is when the two spherical bacteria they are together, they will be called as something like let's say Staphylococcus as far as I remember. Then if they are in a grape-like arrangement, like too many bacteria in a group but in a grape-like manner, they will be called as Streptococci. Or there are monococci or diplococci, that means single bacteria, spherical shape, monococci. Diplococci, two bacteria together. So that way there are several names, but we need not remember that. Okay, I'm making it very simpler for you. What you need to remember is cocci, these are spherical shaped bacteria. Bacillus, rod shaped bacteria. Vibrium, these are comma shaped bacteria. Comma shaped, like let me show you here. I don't know. Yeah, this is the Vibrio category. This one. Yeah. So like not literally this is comma shaped, but there are certain bacteria, like when you draw that comma literally a comma shape in kind of a bigger version, that will be the shape of Vibrio bacteria.
Are the Bacillus, coccus and all, are they like genus, the names?
Yes. So all these names that we see here, Streptococcus is the genus, Pneumoniae is the species, Staphylococcus is the genus, Aureus is the species. Same for all these bacteria that we know. Okay, so these are the general examples: spheres, which are cocci; rods, which are bacilli; and the spirals, including the comma shape, that is Vibrio. There are spirochetes as well, which are exactly a spiral shaped bacteria. So that was the last category, Spirillum, right? These are the spiral shaped bacteria. They can be called as spirochetes and so on. So these are the four main categories. There are several subcategories, but we don't have to go there as of now. You will learn it probably in the class 11th, if at all you take biology. So that is different types of Monera. Now, when we talk of the domains, you remember there was Archaebacteria as one of the category and Eubacteria, which was one of the category. So this Archaebacteria, these were the most primitive species of the bacteria, and that's when they were even present in the very extremes of situations. Extremes of situation as in even some of the bacteria, they are present in the very hot temperatures. Like earlier, the temperature of the earth was very, very hot. It has cooled down like from few thousands or few millions of years ago. But since that earlier time, the bacteria were present on this earth. That's what was the category was called as Archaebacteria. And Eubacteria, which means true bacteria, EU, which is like even in eukaryotic, it is EU. So that means true bacteria. So these true bacteria are all these recent species of the bacteria which we can commonly find around us. Okay, I guess we can take a pause here because it will be too much of information. Now let me answer Ovi's question. Okay, so what she had asked is what is the actual difference between autotrophic and heterotrophic? Yeah, so autotrophic are the ones, auto means self, trophic means they are not dependent on others and they are what we say yeah, self-reliant in short, yeah, independent of others. So that is what is autotrophic. So when autotrophic, they are not dependent on others, that means they are able to synthesize their own food, right? So how they synthesize their own food? Either they can synthesize it from the chemicals, right, using chemical energy. They'll be autotrophic chemosynthetic, or they can be autotrophic photosynthetic. And heterotrophic, that means they are dependent on others for nutrition. They can be parasitic heterotrophic, that means they are dependent on the living organism which is growing, and these bacteria, they are growing on those organism for nutrition. They are parasitic heterotrophic. And the saprophytic, that means a particular animal or plant or species is dead, and on that the bacteria are growing, so they are getting the nutrition from the decaying or dead animals or dead plants. That is what is saprophytic. So that way is the classification. Okay, does anyone else have any question? I know it can get a little overwhelming because the amount of information here is too much, but still we are reducing it to hardly 1% of the information. There is quite a lot to talk about this Monera category itself. Any question, anyone? Okay, so if there are no questions, we will stop here.